In today's video, we're going to take another look at the S&P. Now, one of the things that I talked about was the 513 EMA crossover, and the fact that since we did finally cross over to the downside against some key weekly resistance parameters, I wanted to watch or anticipate a possible failure on a bounce from this support here. So there were some lower levels that I gave you via the S&P futures and then some higher levels. We ended up actually failing at the lower resistance decision. So I'm going to show you that again on the 120-minute chart, and this is similar to the chart that I did post this morning when we were testing this area of resistance, which was the low end of the resistance. It came in at the 23.55.5 to 23.57.5 area. It included an extension of one swing. It also included a projection of another prior rally swing, and I believe a 382 retracement. Now, when you look at these numbers, you know, what the heck are you supposed to do with them? Well, the way that I always talk about it in the trading room is trade setup plus trigger equals entry, and then you manage it. So this was a setup this morning, okay? This was the resistance decision, and then if the market failed to clear this area, which it did, I always want you to go down to a lower time frame chart to look for a trigger. A trigger is essentially the price action that tells you it's worth taking a trade. So in this case, for example, I'll show you a 2-minute chart trigger that could have been used, because I know that some of my traders took a short against this resistance. Basically, this is where we were testing the resistance. Okay, now this is a 2-minute chart. I have the 834 EMA combination on this chart. And what I typically want to see for a trigger is a shift in pattern by taking out a prior swing low for a short in this example, which it did over here, and also having the 834 EMA crossover to the downside. So once both of those things occurred, when it broke this low here, it was okay to be short the S&P, and your initial stop could have been either placed above this high or above the high end of that zone, which is just a little bit higher than that. And then, you know, it did start to play out. Now, I don't know if it's going to play out fully, but again, I wanted to give you an example of a trade setup and then a trigger, because that's how you make money with this work. Now, as far as managing it, you know, you certainly at least want to have a break-even stop, but probably better than a break-even stop. But let's look at what could happen next. So yes, we've already declined from this resistance. I believe it was like 17 points or so. Okay, yeah, 17 3/4. And if this is a more important high, then your typical target's going to be the 1272 extension of that swing, which means this is what we would be shooting for on the downside. Now, just because we're shooting for it doesn't mean we'll get there, which is the reason why we do have, you know, a trailing stop. You certainly don't want to let this become a losing trade after it's had a really nice healthy decline for you here. So if we do continue to hold underneath here, then this is my next immediate target on the downside. If you get stopped out, well, at least you should still have some money in an entry that you would have taken against this resistance decision.